Okay guys, today we are going to learn about plot versus theme. The two main questions that you are going to be thinking about in your mini lesson today is what's the big idea about and what's happening in the story. You're going to need to grab your writer's notebook because you're going to take some notes on these first few slides, and then at the end of this presentation you are going to apply what we talk about in this presentation to your own writing. For this mini lesson, you're going to need your ELA notebook. You're going to need to take notes in that notebook, and then by the end of this lesson, you are going to need to apply what we learned in this lesson to the realistic fiction draft that you are writing on. The first thing that we're going to talk about today is this idea of plot. We've talked about plot mountains a few times throughout this mini lesson, and just to make sure we are all on the same page, it's important to know the definition of plot. And basically, the definition of plot is what's happening in the story. If you visualize a plot mountain, that kind of shows the basics or a summary of what happens in a story. The plot carries the big ideas in a story, it tells what the story is about, and it tells all the important events. In your writer's notebook, you should have all 4 of these points written down under the category of plot. Now we're going to talk about theme. Theme is different, guys. Theme is deeper. Theme is really what middle school ELA is all about. It's taking what happens, the basic story elements, and it's diving in deeper. It's inferring based on the clues that the writer gives you. Theme represents the bigger ideas of the story. What's tricky about theme is that theme is rarely stated and it must be inferred by you guys. Readers infer this theme of a story based on the clues the writer gives and the journey that the writer creates for the reader through the characters and the events of a story. Guys, remember, theme is a bigger idea. It is beyond what happens in a story. Some stories can have more than one possible theme, but remember what we talked about last week. We are creating a story that has one main theme to it. So here's some examples of plot versus theme. Remember, plot just tells what happens. So for example, a boy could move to a new apartment and he's worried about missing his friends. Well, the theme, the bigger idea that could go with a story with that plot could be, you know what, sometimes change is really hard. Or another theme could be just change in general and what you could learn from that. If you go to the second example, we're taking it old school here, back to Frog and Toad. The plot for one of the Frog and Toad books was Frog leaves a note for Toad telling him that he's spending some time alone and Toad's feelings are hurt and he goes to find Frog. A possible theme to go with the plot of that particular Frog and Toad story could be sometimes we worry when we don't need to. Another theme could possibly be sometimes friends just need space, but they still want to be our friends. Remember, plot is what happens. Theme is the big idea. So now we have to ask ourselves, how in the world does this apply to our realistic fiction writing? Well, today you're going to do a discussion board post and you're going to answer the following questions when thinking about your own writing. Number 1, what is happening in your story? Give a brief summary. Talk about the plot of your writing. Number 2, what do you believe to be the most important piece of the plot of your writing? What's the most important thing that happens in your story? This should be a minimum of 1 sentence as well. Number 3, what do you think a possible big idea is from your writing? Example, what theme are you hoping to have your readers get from your writing? And then last but not least, what clues do you or could you have in your writing that will lead your readers to this theme? Remember, not all of you are going to have everything done. This is just a plan to push you to get there. There are 4 sentences here that are going to need to be, there are 4 questions here, that are going to need to be answered in your discussion board, and I'm requiring a minimum of 1 sentence response each, which means that this is going to be a lengthier discussion board, guys. That's why it's worth more points. I should see a minimum of 4 sentences in each of your discussion board responses. Here we go, guys. Happy writing. Don't forget to have fun.